I'm going back to one of the first beers I ever made for this channel on the 6.5 gallon Anvil Foundry during the pandemic, but this time I have everything that I wanted to use then on hand for this beer, and that all starts now. Welcome to Big Monster Brewing. I am Matt, and this is the Anvil Foundry Brewing Edition. And if you're new here, please take a second to consider subscribing, hitting that notification bell, liking the video, commenting. Oh, something else. Share. That's what I think people say on this. I need to learn this. I don't know why I keep saying that all these years later, because I haven't. But one way or another, I might. American Lager. That is what I'm making today, and I did make one before. In fact, it's one of my more popular videos, which is unfortunate because I ended up not liking that beer entirely. Not sure if it came across. I'll throw in a clip here, and you can kind of see where I wasn't entirely excited about this beer. And I did notice this pouring. There's a corniness to it, which it's definitely DMS. And I think right off the bat, I know why, and I'll talk about that here very shortly. There is a little allowed in this style, but this is like a little more than a little. I wouldn't call it a lot, but it's a little more than a little, if that makes sense. I'd actually like a little more crisp. There's a little more body to this in the mouthfeel. It's not a heavy mouthfeel, but a little more than a lager than I'd expect. I think a lot of that had to do with it being my first lager on the Foundry. Now, granted, making it on the Foundry itself, there's really no difference, but the entire process, when you're adding something new into something that you've done before. I've done lagers before, but I've done them on a 3-tier system. And even though this is only one facet of that, you kind of got to learn to how everything works together. Even though some little nuances might not seem they're affecting the entire beer, they can in a big way. And then sometimes small or sometimes big. In this case, I think maybe, I can't really pinpoint it on what it was in the Foundry, but maybe something along the lines of putting that brew together. I just maybe missed something because I was a little out of sync of what I was doing, but I've made many more beers. I've made quite a few lagers, especially for the Oktoberfest season during the past 2 years, actually. I was going to say the pandemic year, but that's 2020 I'm referring to when I say that. But over the past couple of years, so I've got that dialed in much more, and the results are much better. And I'm really excited to hit this beer again. And there's two other things about this beer that I'm excited about. One, I wanted to use a specific liquid yeast for this, and that is the L13 Global by Imperial. Could not get many liquid yeast for love nor money when I decided to do this beer, so I used a dry yeast. I don't think the dry yeast is the main culprit of this, but again, that's another change in my lagering method that I had to get used to and was doing for the first time. Now I'm more comfortable with making the pitch, doing the calculations, knowing exactly how much I'm pitching in with this liquid yeast. So obstacle number one, or goal number one, I guess you could say, is set and ready for this beer. The other thing I'm adding to this beer is a particular, I guess it's technically an adjunct as part of the grist, and we're going to talk about that real soon because that's where we're going next. Now, I guess it's kind of a misnomer saying that I didn't get to use this last time because it didn't, well, I'm not going to say it didn't exist. It wasn't available. It is now, and I have some of it on hand, especially after the results of this beer. Spoiler alert. And, well, I was going to say what it is, but we'll talk about that. Let's just get right into the brew, and then we can cover all these bases and get to the end result quicker. To get started, I get 3.5 gallons of distilled water into the Foundry and start heating that up to my target strike temperature of 151 degrees Fahrenheit, and I start the recirculation during that heating process. Now, while that's happening, I can get the grist together for this beer. And I start with 4 pounds, 9.6 ounces of 2-row Pale Malt. Then I get that ingredient I've been alluding to here that I'm really excited to try, and that is 12 ounces of Bloody Butcher malted corn. And to round that out, I add 4 ounces of Flaked Rice to this grist. And here's a closer look at that Bloody Butcher corn, and it's something I'm super excited to, looking forward to seeing what it adds to this beer. I mill only that 2-row Pale Malt, and when that strike water is up to temperature, I put everything in, mix it up real good, start it recirculating, and then I get my boil additions ready. The boil additions are pretty straightforward here, but apparently I either didn't shoot footage of them when I measured them out, or I lost them. Probably didn't shoot it because I've not lost a video any other time on this particular device. So let me read these off here. It is 0.12 ounce of Magnum at 60 minutes. and then 0.2 ounce of crystal hops at 10 minutes. And then, of course, the usual additions of Yeast Nutrients at 10 minutes and Whirlfloc at 2 minutes. At the 50-minute mark for the mash, I turn the temperature up to 168 degrees for a 10-minute mash out. And when that's done, I lift the malt pipe out of the foundry, sparge with a gallon of 170-degree water, and set the foundry into boil mode. At the end of that 60-minute boil, I turn the power off from the heating elements and I start chilling the wort. I get it down to my target pitching temperature of 51 degrees Fahrenheit, transfer that into a 3-gallon carboy, and I pitch my sizable starter of Imperial Global L13 yeast. I use the Brewlosophy published method of lagering from brewlosophy.com. I think it's about a 21-day process, 21 days, somewhere around about 3-week process. Point is, once that's done, I keg the beer. I do add some biofine to the keg to help with the clearing for this, because this is supposed to be a very clear beer. We'll see what happens here shortly. Carbonate it with the Blickman Quick Carb, and now we are ready to taste. It's tasting time. And I'm thoroughly annoyed that I cannot get a shot of how clear this beer is. I have wiped it off, the condensation off, 10 times. Here's some shots of me trying to get a good shot of it, but the condensation keeps coming back. This is clear. This is when the BJCP guidelines say crystal clear. If this isn't it, I don't know what is. This, I think, is the clearest beer I've ever made. And time and biofine, that's what it comes down to. The actual lagering method helped a lot, so it went in clear. Biofine kind of took over from there, and then just letting it sit for another week or so before I poured it, hooked it up, made it even better. And there, condensation's right back again, which means this is going to be a nice cold drink at least. But man, that sucks. That I really wanted to show off how clear that was, because I was insanely excited when I poured it. Color, it's dead on. Looks like a beer. When you type the word beer in Google without any specifications, that's the color you're going to see. Head wasn't real big, but this has stayed a long time, from pouring to trying to get a picture of it, to me sitting here messing with it with the paper towel. And that was not the first take of my introduction on this. Still got some head on it, especially it's got a really thick ring around the collar and then a complete coverage of bubbles across the top. I'm surprised how long this has held. Let's check out the aroma. Again, beer. That's all I could say. It's a little grainy, just a teeny touch of alcohol. So it's a alcoholic drink of some sort, and no real distinct hops, just that kind of that beer aroma. That just is about the only way to describe it, honestly. Let's get to the taste here. This is super clean. It's got a little crispness to it. There's barely a hint of corn to it, which I was a little worried about. What point? I think it was probably kegging it initially. No, actually, I think I take it back. It's probably the taste I took of it before I pitched the yeast. I got a taste of the wort, and it was like corn. It was like corn juice, and I was like, oh man, that bloody butcher corn was a little too much. It was like that really, really worried me. That's settled down tremendously after fermentation. What else? It's an American lager. There's not a lot of complexity to it at all. It just tastes like a beer, and that's what this one tastes like. But I'll give it another shot here. It's smooth. There's that distinct lager crispness to it. There's that little bit of corn flavor, like I said. It's not from that off flavor, which is DMS? I think DMS. The acetal, I believe, is the butterscotch one. The DMS is the corn, that kind of corn mimicking flavor. It's not that to me, but that might be a bias because I know what's in this. Now, I did put this in a competition because I was really happy with the results. We'll see what they decide that this corn flavor is, but I am attributing it to that butcher's that bloody butcher corn. It's also not very strong, and it might be another bias where I'm picking it out more than is actually there because I'm like taking a sip directly trying to find that corn flavor. So it might not even be picked up, especially warmed up. I know it's probably only warmed up a couple degrees at most doing this, but it actually seems to have tamed down that even more. Let me do that I'm going to do it for about 30 seconds and then jump back here. All right. Now, I don't know if it's my imagination and I'm talking myself into stuff, but now, I mean, it's actually noticeably warmer, and I don't think I'm getting any corn now. And gee, I hate when I have to drink an entire beer on a video to really describe everything. No, actually, that's strange. I don't know why it comes out when it's cold. No, when it's not. Now I have to do an experiment. So we're going to take a weird edit cut here. All right. I poured a little flight sample. This is cold. This is much colder. Let's see if I get corn now and no corn. Now I don't taste the corn, which makes me think. I don't think I was talking myself into it. I think my palate has adjusted to it, and I knew it was there. Yeah, I'm just getting, that, but that did taste different. Okay. I have no idea. If you were to put these in two different glasses, I can't really tell the difference. I'm not sure what that proved, other than the fact that I can drink a lot of beer really quick, apparently. I thought the corn was waning. Now I'm questioning whether the corn taste had to be there. I can't imagine a taste, can I? I guess I could. I think it was there, but I think it's more of a case of my palate adjusting. And it's beyond that, it's a good beer. Obviously, I answered my own statement. It's obviously crushable. This is gone. I don't even know how many minutes that was. In fact, how much? Okay, yeah, it's. Let's just get rid of it. All right, that's crushable. Apparently, American lagers. It's that whole category. It's category 1. I believe it's American light lager, cream ale, and American wheat. Very low entered category in this competition circuit. In fact, I think I have never run the numbers, but I think I've personally seen, when I've judged the flights, more cream ales and American wheats than the American lagers, American light lagers, because I think they get a bad name because of the mass-produced swill that is out on the market. Even with that, there's still something to be said for those beers in the right setting, in the right conditions. Might not be for everybody, but on a ridiculously blazing hot day in the middle of the sun, if you handed me a Miller Lite, I am going to drink it. I'm not going to make this a discussion about big beers, but I am going to say that the style, I think, is underappreciated, especially on the homebrew level. And this is it's really good. It's not much more flavorful than those other ones that are mass produced, but it's a different flavor, and it's a much tastier flavor and a much more enjoyable flavor. And I think it's a style that is really worth dialing in to your own recipe and your own signature on it, because as you can see, it's not difficult to get through one very quickly and talk a lot about it. I'm talking more about this now than I honestly thought I was going to, because of how simplistic they are in taste and aroma and everything, on appearance and everything else. I thought I was going to probably talk more about the clarity than anything else, but here I am just spending a lot of time debating between two temperatures of the same beer. It's a very underlooked style, and one I think, like I said, worth dialing in, and it challenges you because there's nothing to hide behind it. If there's any kind of flaw in there, it would have been throughout the entire tasting of it. And obviously, if there was one, if there is a technical flaw in there, it wasn't enough to stop me from drinking that in about 6 or 7 minutes, however long this segment came out. So my point is, this is a good beer, solid recipe. Take it, try it on your own, adjust it. If you don't have Bloody Butcher corn, try something else. Maybe try all rice. That's kind of the recipe I took. I just took a little bit of the corn or rice out and put in that corn to see what it would bring to the table. Ends up being really good. There's all kinds of things you can try with this. So it's an underappreciated style, and I wish it would get more attention and more produced that are still simple but tasty. And I know a lot of local breweries that have done some very good American lagers, and I wish there were more. And that's it. That's all I can say. I'm going to get another one, but I'm going to get it off camera. I got more videos to come, more the 2.5 gallon videos. I got a big experiment coming. Speaking of lagers, we're going to go halfway around the world, literally, for maybe the next video. If not the next video, one after that, and look at a Japanese rice lager, but 3 different ways. And I'll give you a little hint on that. I don't know how much you're going to learn of how to make that, but you're going to learn what not to do. So more on that later. Until then, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next episode.